Hi everyone, this is Kelly from The Truth in Story. I don't know why I painted my nails orange when I'm doing a pink deck, but you know, it is what it is. I'm here to take a look. This video we're going to look at the Vessel Oracle deck, which is by the author of Spirit Speak Tarot. And I have the Spirit Speak Tarot, and I'm going to be doing a walkthrough of this as well. This is one of my favorite backings for a tarot deck, can I just say. I have not, Mr. Alex had sent me these decks with some other decks, and I've been working with the other decks. I've drawn a couple from this deck, but I haven't even gotten this out of order because I didn't want to do my walkthrough first. And so this is really a first good look at these for me, and so I'm really excited to take a look at them. I had a lot of people tell me that these two decks were decks that I should get. People that know me and that know my taste has said, you know, I really, and have these decks, I really think that you would like these decks. I have to admit that I wasn't too drawn by the actual artwork, just because of it's the style. You know, nothing wrong with it. It's just me, the long arms, the spindly arms and things like that. It's just a style, the kind of, you know, eyeballs, disembodied eyeballs and things of that nature. It just artistically didn't really appeal to me, even though I've heard a lot of good things about both the decks. But again, many people said you will like this, and I have to say that the drawings that I have done with this deck have been quite on point. And so I have been learning, you know, in the last year and a half or so, I really have been learning that it doesn't always have to be art that I would put on my wall to be able to get a good message from it. And that is something that I've really kind of got a pretty solid lesson in, to not necessarily, obviously if the artwork just turns you off, it's a little bit harder to work with it. But I find that sometimes it disrupts my, oh, that's pretty, and makes me really think about things in a new way. And so I am trying to be a little bit better about that, because generally, right, we do buy decks. We're very visual, and we buy decks based off of that visual aspect. And so if something doesn't artistically appeal to me, it does tend to be, you know, I'm going to put my money, I'm going to, you know, purchase decks that appeal to me artistically. But there's been enough people saying that I would like this deck, you know, that I should have trusted that, because I have to say, thanks to Mr. Alex for forcing me to give it a go, I've been pretty impressed with this. I haven't tried the tarot yet. I will come to that one next. But I've been pretty impressed with this. And part of the reason why, as you'll see when we go through it, is there is actually there is anxiety, there is change, I've got them alphabetized, defeat, endurance, fear. Like, there is light and shadow in the deck, and that's something that I personally really appreciate in a oracle deck, and it's already built into tarot. So but it doesn't always come built into an oracle deck. And so I struggle with finding oracle decks that I really work with on a continual basis because of that. This actually does, and as I said, the draws that I've done from this have been pretty poignant or on point. The funky artwork makes me look at it a little bit closer, and it does evoke the feelings from what the you know, the keywords are, or what the main title is. So I have found these to be quite impressive. So this is called the Vessel Oracle, a Spirit Speak Oracle deck. And it says these drawings were made in Oakland, California in 2015 by Mary Elizabeth Evans. It comes in my favorite kind of box, a magnetic tuck box, just the right size of the cards. I love these types of boxes. They sit on your shelf nice. They look pretty on your shelf. This is, to me, you can just keep your deck in here. And most of my oracle decks do stay in their boxes unless they're on my reading table. There's a couple that I use a lot that don't have boxes that are on the front. But generally my oracle decks are in boxes, and so these are fantastic. So kudos to the boxes. Size-wise, I've been using my Margaret Peterson because it's right here, and it's the size of a Blue Angel Oracle deck. So you can see these are quite small. For an Oracle deck, these are quite small. So for example, here is this a low Scarabia? I don't think, but this is kind of a standard tarot. It's smaller, a little bit wider, but it is definitely shorter than a standard tarot deck. Now the actual tarot deck, now this is something I appreciate, and I will of course get to this one, but a standard tarot deck, the tarot deck, this for Spirit Speaks, is smaller, which I quite like because I do like my oracles to stand out from the tarot. So it is actually bigger than the tarot deck, which I appreciate as well. Cardstock wise, there is a little bit of a sheen, but it's not glossy. It's just nice. It's actually quite, I've shuffled these already. I quite like how they shuffle. They're kind of thin. They a little bit remind me of a very nice matte version maybe of the old Llewellyn cardstock, which I like because it's not thick at all. It's definitely a thinner cardstock, but it has a nice matte sheen to it that I quite like. The cardstock for me is nice, but you know I do like a thinner cardstock. Here's the backings, which are bright pink with triangles and like an all-seeing eye in the back of it. And it comes with a little white book that is hand written or hand done. So this is a self-published deck. This is not a deck that you pick up on Amazon, and I quite like that organic feel to the little white book. There's not a lot there. I don't think you really need a lot, to be honest, because we know what anxiety is. It happens to everyone. We get caught up, nervous, anxious. What can you do right now to feel better? Begin. It's time to start anew. Prepare to enjoy all the beautiful things coming your way. You know, I think this is really meant to be intuitive, as I truthfully very rarely go back to Oracle deck guidebooks. You are a creator. Your hands are so capable, and there's lots of hands. So just like a little sentences for each. At the back she has a thank you to my dear family, my mother, father, brothers who I love with all my heart, my Oakland community, and goes on and thanks people. There is not, so this is 2015. There's not any spreads in here, which again is not something that I really care too much about with Oracle decks, because I'm generally doing 3-card pulls or a single card with an Oracle deck. Or for 3 voices, often I'll have 2, one on either side of 3 voices. So I don't really necessarily need to have brain dead. I don't necessarily need to have spreads on Oracle decks. Tarot decks, I do like to see new spreads, but again, this is fine the way it is, because again, I have a pretty standard way I use Oracle decks. So let's take a zoom in here. Move these. I really do love this box. I love the box. Let's see if there's any kind of introduction. Nope, it goes right into abundance, so there really isn't anything kind of talking about the theme or the artist or why they particularly made this deck, which I do kind of sometimes like to see what are they thinking about when they've done it, but it's just, you know, get right into the deck kind of a thing. Here is again, the backing up close. And there is an ice cream truck going by. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear that, but I don't hear that very often. Should be able to move in a little further. Obviously the stars here are the cards. So here I just put them in alphabetical order because that's the way they are in the book, so that I could, in case I wanted to see what they were trying to go for. What's interesting, and this is what I'm saying, is this deck, again, artistically, it reminds me of like Picasso-y kind of, where there are just eyeballs sitting here and an eyeball weeping tears and overflowing here and scriggly scrangly arms, kind of rubbery arms coming down. It artistically, truthfully, doesn't super appeal to me because of that. It's just me, but it makes me pause and look at it. I think it's interesting because I understand the concept of abundance. We have the overflowing cups, but then this is interesting because I see, okay, we have the third eye here, and so it seems as if that this abundance is coming from having that third eye opened. And then why do we have the tears coming out of the eyes when this is abundance, right? Now, in the actual guidebook, it doesn't address those things. It says, you are abundant, your cups are overflowing. Isn't it nice to be full and content? So I do like that the eyes tell us it's not just outward abundance. It says you are abundant. And so we can kind of see that with the eyes, I suppose, that pulling inward. Like this is actually about ourselves and we are actually abundant. But for me, what really stands out here is that third eye, and that this abundance comes because we are paying attention to our intuition and to our gut and things. That's just what's coming to me randomly about this. Now you can see that the images are sketched and mostly in black with pink, I think nope, there's some blue, just bursts of little bits of color. I believe the tarot deck is all black and white, and maybe I should turn my phone off. Okay, let's try this again. So here we have anxiety. Again, I really like this. That's what I think is interesting about this deck. It's almost as if the artwork that kind of puts me off a little bit forces me to look a little closer, and it works. I don't love the creepy long skinny arms and fingers, but anxiety, we've got chained. We're chained by anxiety. We have this anxious looking face and crazy hair. We have keys over here. So there are keys to get that anxiety, to release it. What can we do to unlock these chains and get ourselves out of it? But it looks like anxiety to me, like it reflects anxiety. I really like this card because again, there's no creepy eyeballs or hands, but I like this. It's begin. There's so many things depending on what the question is, depending on what you knew. It's time to begin new, and it looks like a bright sparkler full of hearts and stars, so I quite like that card. Same thing with this. I do like this eye that shows up in the cloud. Here we have birth. So it is, what is different? Okay, so let's see. Begin is, it's time to start anew. Prepare to enjoy the things that are coming to you. Where the birth is the birth of new ideas and projects, new ways of thinking. You being the creator or the person who's going to give birth. So that apparently is, I can see that that is a little bit different than just the beginning of something, because you are actually birthing something. And I, again, quite like the look of that. I like this as well, boundaries, right? We've got, kind of things hedging in, a little bit of a tangling up here. It can be too tight, or it can be good boundaries. We have the stop sign in the hand, or the no sign here. And it's like, don't be afraid to say no if you need to. So I do like this. To me, this speaks of boundary. The hand's not creepy. I like the eye in there. I quite like that. Here we have change. I, again, really like this card. We see this movement. Change is cycle. Life is a cycle of change and new beginnings. I really do. I like the visual of that we need to embrace change because it's part of life. Here we have childhood. Again, this is quite interesting because we have these tacks down here at the bottom. It says, a child's well-being is in the hands of its caretaker. How can we accept, honor, and love the child in ourselves? Okay, so I get that with a sense of child. We have a sense of egg almost here, but we also have tacks. So that to me speaks of pointy, hard aspects of childhood, because not all of childhood is wonderful things, unfortunately, and for many people that's not the case. But it doesn't really talk about that in the guidebook, right? Maybe those aren't tacks, but they look like tacks to me. So I like the dichotomy there, depending on the reading and depending on things, what are the harder aspects of childhood that might need to be resolved are showing up with the tacks there. Lots of hands in this one. Here we have choices, and this makes sense to me. Again, we've got the eyes kind of looking at things from both directions. There are different possibilities here. Get new perspectives on your choices. You know, you have choices to make, and there's lots of endless possibilities it talks about in the guidebook. So that to me works, even though again the discombobulated hands and eyes to me is a little bit creepy, despite the bright pinks and the hearts and the colors. There is a creepy factor to this deck for me, which I know is probably not intended to be that case, but it works because it makes me a little bit discombobulated, and so I'm looking at things with the fresh eyeballs. Here we have communication. See, again, very strange to me. Look at these eyeballs looking at each other. We have like snake hands. It says communication is key to seeing deeper right now. Let your heart lead your voice. So I'm not entirely sure what the creepy hands, snake hands, are for here. To be honest, this one I don't fully get, although I do see we need that communication is clear to seeing things right. So I get that. The creepy hands, I'm not entirely sure how does that apply to communication. I don't know. Somebody can talk to me about this one. Again, I can use the card communication. I can use the eyeballs in that sense of needing to see clearly in order to communicate clearly, but I'd really like to get a handle on the snake hands. So you watching, give me a tip on what you think about this particular card here. What does that say to you? Because again, I like this deck. It makes me think, and I've gotten some good readings out of it, but I'd like to dig a little deeper into that one. Here we have connect. This one makes sense. We have the person with no heads, people with no heads. I guess their heads are behind their arms. Back to back, hand to hand, complete connection there. And it's building a community. See all the eyes here? So connections, building community. It's pretty interesting there. Now is a good time to feel protected in the hearts of others. I like the triangle energy here. So I do like that one. Defeat. This is a sad star, it says. It's okay to give up and to feel bad about it sometimes. Defeat helps us to let go and let in change. So, but definitely sad, multiple eyeballs here. And it's funny because in the Wooden Tarot, the multiple eyes don't bother me. In this deck, I find it a little creepy. I don't find the Wooden Tarot creepy. I do find this like a happy creepy, which is very odd. I like this one a lot. I like this because we have endurance of holding up this little neighborhood here. I actually like the multiple hands, like it's that sort of idea of getting help and everybody working together. But it can also just be you, like you're stronger than you think, you have more arms than you think, you're more capable than you think. And again, still with the eyeballs. But I really like that card. I like this too. Again, don't like the discombobulated eyeballs or mouth, but it says fear to me. It's got that frenetic, fearful energy and that eyes wide open in the dark feeling. That's what I'm saying. To me, this is a like happy, creepy deck. Here we have fire. I was hoping when I saw this that there would be fire, water, earth, and air, like all the elements, but there's not. It's just the fire card. But this is a spark inside. Your fire will only grow and spread light and warmth into the world. That says that to me. That works really well. Here we have forgive. This has come up in a really appropriate time. I think it was in a live chat reading. Forgiveness can wash us clean. We have this, I don't know what this is. Like this is water, that washing clean, but I feel like that also after the rain, the sun is coming out. But I really liked this card and it's come up actually in a couple of readings at appropriate times. Freedom. What makes you feel free? Go to the place that lets your spirit sing. So we have this little, in a little forest with the rainbow and hearts and flowers. So it's like freedom is finding that place in which you are happy in. So that's quite interesting. Happy little clouds, happy little rainbow. Here we have another sad star. So we had the sad star for defeat. Now we have grieving. So I quite like this. It looks like grieving. He's sad. There's a whole river of tears coming down. So, you know, this is just defeat, whereas this is grieving. We have lots of water energy there. I love this card. Look at the healing card. We've got the water coming down. We've got the gentle feeling of it. We've got the little flowers and the hearts that are going to mend this broken heart. I quite like that. I think even aesthetically, I think I really love that card. It gets better. It says you're not alone. Again, the hand's indicating more than one people. You're not alone. Help is coming. Let people help you. That kind of thing. Light. I really like this card as well. You bring light into this life. Your thoughts and feelings are important. They are your light. But you could do lots with this. It doesn't have to just be on thoughts and feelings. I feel like just that idea of light coming into a situation is, I think, really beautiful. I like this one as well. The love card. I mean, that just makes sense. It's beautifully done. I like the pink splurts here. The make card, which we talked about. You're the creator. You have all these hands. You're capable of so much. You're overflowing with hand capabilities. But you can also go to community aspects with all the hands. These hands aren't as creepy as some of the other hands. Like these. Like the foot in the hand here. It's very, to me, Picasso-y feeling. And it has that sense of strangeness here. But we do have movement, and movement has to do, I have these not quite alphabetically correct, but that's okay. You're not bound to one thing or one place. Moving is magic, and we have that little magic wand. So movement is good. Movement is moving you from one place to another. It's part of life. Then we also have move on. So this tells me you've got to let go of things and move on. That's very different than the positive magic of movement. It's that sense of needing to move on from a situation. Your hands no longer need to clutch so tightly. You're free. It's that letting go of whatever that is that you were holding on to. Again, all the eyeballs I find discombobulating, but you know, you're seeing the situation more clearly and letting go of what you were grasping. Power. We have more like earthworms in this one. You got the power, it says. You can move mountains. You have the power for divine transformation. So it's kind of that magician energy of just having all the power that you need to electrify a situation. Although it looks like earthworms being electrocuted. But it works. The energy is there. Release. This is a little gross. I'm not going to lie here. Give you the truth. This is a little gross. He's vomiting up, so it's release. Cut out what no longer serves you. Release old ties. But she's like literally dumping out old things and throwing up poison and getting it out of the system. I have truthfully never encountered an oracle deck with somebody throwing up in it, but it works. I love this card. It's beautiful. It's rest. It's sleep. It's healing to do that. Don't forget to rest. I think it's gorgeous. This is very strange to me as well. Here we have romance. It does bring up the idea of the temperance card, of the mixing of the kind of male and female. But these do kind of look like monster hands. And it says, mushy gushy romance. Enjoy the embrace of this beautiful time. We have like scales here, again with like kind of hand snakes seem to be a theme. I'm not sure how I feel about that. And this doesn't even feel like water. It kind of feels like goo. So it's kind of interesting. We have all these red hearts, and we have romance, and we have this little flower here, but then we have snake hands and kind of goo oozing. That's what I'm saying, is it's sort of like takes you where it needs to, where you should be, and like steps. It's like a step, a step sideways, like we're in this little bit of an alternative universe that does force you to think. So I appreciate it. It's just very odd sometimes. Here we have self-care. This makes sense to me. You are number one. Take care of yourself. We've got kind of getting some rest and happy clouds. Light a candle. Take a break. We've got the wavy person. It seems to be thematic. Here we have self-doubt. Be nice to yourself. See your true beauty. Because here we have, I think, what's really there, right? This wonderful person, they've got a cup full of star and light and everything's great, but in the mirror, she's not seeing her cup full of stars, she's seeing the poison and negative things. So that's, I think, quite powerful. Here we have spirit, connect with your spirit. We have that sort of all-seeing eye in the palm, and that spirit getting ready to kind of go free and move outward from your body. So that works. Structure, I like that. Other than, again, lots of eyes, but there's that sense of structure. And it even asks a little question, what does that mean to you? Do we need to fly free of it, or do we need to get grounded? Because it could be either way, right? Structure could come up in light or shadow. Support. So it talks about being part of a support system. Here we have an actual snake versus a hand snake. But we have that support system where we have the water seeming to pour from one to another. This one is gaining water from the clouds, but we can help each other. That's why I think that works really well. That imagery works well for the word support. Here we have trust. Now I would need a lot of trust to lay back like that with snake hands nearby me. But we have to trust in where your heart guides you. I like the image of the person, and I get the idea of it, because it could be taking us one way or another when we need to trust it. But I would be creeped out laying here with my eyes closed with creepy hand snakes. And here we have truth. What is the deepest truth within? Listen to its wisdom. So we have the third eye again showing up. We have the eyes closed, but with stars in them, to be listening to what's going on in the heart. So I mean, to me that is quite clear and shows up very clearly. So really the only one that I'm kind of questionable about is what are the hand snakes in the communication card. So don't forget to try to give me your idea of what that might mean. So you can see what I mean, I think. I mean, some people love this art, and this really speaks to people. Spirit speaks. And it does actually speak to me, but it does also vaguely creep me out in a way that seems to function in terms of getting readings. So if it works, that's all that matters. Let's give it a little shuffle here. I definitely feel like it needs a bright pink edging. But they're so white on the front, I wouldn't want that to creep over onto the front, so I don't know that I would actually do that. I'd have to see if anybody's done it yet. And please rest assured that when I say that a particular deck's art doesn't appeal to me, it's not that I think that it's bad art or that it's, anything like that. It's just for me personally. It's not something, again, that I would put on my wall, but it works. So what I would generally do with something like this is pull, 2 or 3 cards and see what we get. So we have move on, and moving on is a choice, right? And it's also a choice to forgive, and sometimes forgiveness and comes hand in hand with needing to move on. So that's why I say they really do work very well together. I have had very poignant readings, very pointed readings. I like the one word for the most part. Now I pull one that's not, but I like the concise, right? Make things happen. Sometimes you have to have endurance, and things are going to get better because you're sort of putting that out there. You're putting that creative energy of what you're making, that while right now it may be difficult to accomplish that, or you just need to endure and keep holding things up because it's going to get better. See how they really flow together very well, both in imagery as well as in messages. I find them to be very good readings. I'm excited to try them with the tarot deck. I just needed to go through the tarot deck. Well, I didn't shuffle these. Move on, choice, and forgive. We already had that one. I just wanted to give you a couple examples. So that's an interesting one. Visually, I love the pink on either side with the blue in the middle, and there needs to be rest, and in order to get that rest, there needs to be boundaries in place, and we need to communicate what it is that we need, because clearly if we're in need of a rest, maybe things are overwhelming right now, and we need to communicate that. We need to be able to communicate what our needs are to somebody else. So I'm just kind of throwing these out here a little bit just so you can see what I'm saying when I say they really work well together. And that's not always the case. Just because a single artist makes a deck doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to flow and communicate well together. And this deck of cards actually really talks to itself well. And I do like, again, that there are shadow cards in here of anxiety and need to forgive. Boundaries need to be made. I like the light and shadow balance, but I particularly like the way they just seem to read very beautifully together. Almost Lenormand-y in the way that they connect with each other, but still Oracle, but it has a little bit of a Lenormand-y feel to it. So that is a look at the Vessel Spirit Speak Oracle deck. And again, I would not have bought this deck for myself. People had suggested it to me, and I just thought, it's cool, and I know everybody likes it, but it's not a deck that I would have bought for myself. But I actually find it to be very useful, and it's a deck that I have actually come back to even after initial just doing it in live chats. I've actually pulled it out for readings because there is something about it and the way that it reads that I find to be helpful. So there is my another lesson from a wonderful viewer to me about not always stopping from trying a deck out simply because the art maybe doesn't appeal to you right away. So I've definitely had a few of those lessons, and this is one of them. Now sometimes it's the other way, like my experience with the Deviant Moon. That art didn't appeal to me, and when I got the deck it didn't speak to me. So sometimes it is the case that it's not going to work for you, but sometimes not, and that's been quite a few decks actually. Collage decks, I kind of ruled out all collage decks, and some of my favorite decks now are collage decks. And so it's that sort of, there's something to, sometimes it works, and I'm kind of giving this one a thumbs up for how well it works. And I would not have, this is not a deck that I would have picked up for myself, and I would have missed out on that. So thank you, Alex, and I hope that this is helpful to you. This one is still available to purchase. I will put the link to their website below. I believe that you can't get this version of the Spirit Speak. You can only get the reversed one, but I'm still going to do a walkthrough because it's the same deck. It's just that the backings are white and then black, and then here you have a black background with white text. I will put also link well, that's in this one. I'm going to do a walkthrough of this, and I will put a link to the deck in the reversed so you can see it as it is reversed, but you can still get the deck. It's just not this version. So I still am going to do a walkthrough of it. So there we go. That has been a look at the Vessel, a Spirit Speak Oracle.